There is a reason I am sharing such a grievous story. In your neurodiverse marriage, you've had some grief, and we so often do not know what to do with grief. Usually, we stuff it. Sometimes we are afraid that if we open the pain, we'll start crying and never stop. Hello, and welcome to Cassandra Uncaged. I'm Libby Clark, and if you found me, then we found each other. Are you tired of feeling all alone in your neurodiverse marriage and no one believing or understanding what you're going through? Do you feel like you've lost yourself? Is your heart sick from deferred hope? Would you like a personal shepherdess to guide you out of the valleys of neurodiversity into life-giving green pastures to help you become the best version of yourself while you're in a season of waiting for circumstances to change? Come join the safe community of Cassandra Uncaged. Let's open the curtains and get you out of that corner. Grab a journal and pen, release and have peace. A new joy-filled chapter is just around the corner. Hi friends, today I'm sharing how God used a very grievous occurrence in my story in 2016 to initiate the release of the heartache and grief I'd experienced within the previous 32 years of my neurodiverse marriage, to lay a framework for your thoughts, not only for the importance of curating your grief, but also how to begin the process of grieving, to make a way for the process of healing. I know it's not if you have grief, it's have you processed your grief. First, I want to lay a backdrop that God really understands the necessity of grieving, and He Himself has a heart that knows how to grieve. God is a tear collector. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." And Jeremiah 9:17 says, "This is what the Lord Almighty says. Consider now, call for the wailing women to come. Send for the most skillful of them." These wailing women would mournfully sing grieving songs because music takes us into our hearts. And today I want to help you get centered within yourself, not merely walk alongside yourself in a fragmented way. Jesus came to bind up the brokenhearted. Do you know that in Philippians 4:6, where it says, "Be anxious for nothing"? The Greek word anxious, its root meaning is fractured, divided into pieces. Now, I want to say, I have practiced starting to tell this story without getting emotional, and I have not been successful, so no guarantees that I won't wobble a little. So by the year 2016, my heart within my neurodiverse marriage was indeed divided into fractured pieces. As a believer, I would look at the intensity of my mess and just look up to heaven and say, what I really was saying was, how would you ever fix this, God? That is exactly the narrative that the enemy wants us believing. The nursery rhyme, Humpty Dumpty, pairs well with the enemy's narrative. It goes, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Well, I now hold up a sword of truth and I shout, Luke 1:37, with God, nothing will be impossible. So in 2015, one of our children wanted a dog, so we began that journey. I am a huge animal lover, but up until that point, I had so much going on raising 7 children, which felt like I was a single mom raising 8 children rather than a married mom co-parenting 7 children. But in 2015, we were in a different season. No babies or toddlers, and it seemed like a great experience for this older child who wanted a dog. We found a sweet puppy from a shelter, and we brought this little guy home. Now, I'm going to pause here and say I am now convinced that just as a human body keeps the score of trauma, so does a little doggy body keep the score of trauma. And please know, this story is not to discourage anyone from adopting a dog from a shelter. In fact, I am 100% endorsing you to pursue being a forever home for a dog from a shelter if you're in the market. Though this story is hard, God repurposed my story in a very, very significant way. I have sat with Jesus and filled many bottles of tears over what happened. I'm choosing to be careful about the details and only give the necessary parts that are really my story as well as Steve's story, which he 100% endorses me to share with you all. The chaos in our neurodiverse home was hard on everyone, including the children. As it turns out, the level of diligent care this puppy needed was something this kid was not ready for. At the time, I was so devalued in our home that I was not allowed to give any input into the care for the dog, and I had a lot going on, overfunctioning, gluing everything else together, and I knew that if I really gave myself over to the care of the animal, I would get very attached and I would want to oversee its care, which would not go over well. So I painfully watched the process evolve into something very sad, with my hands tied. The puppy grew into a dog, and by 2016, he had developed some aggression, which was further agitated by someone inviting a trainer person of sorts to come and use very domineering techniques, which made all of the dog's aggression get worse. A day came when the trainer person told our kid whose dog it was to choose one of 2 possibilities. One was to see if the shelter would take him back, and the second option was to find someone to rehome the dog to. Our child chose to see if the shelter would take the dog back. Now, remember, up to this point, I was not allowed to attach my heart to this dog in a deep way. I was really disturbed by how this had all played out, but I just robotically went and told Steve that day that our child was choosing to take action to remove the dog from our home. Now, this was on a Saturday, so Steve was home. Now, a few hours later, I had prepared lunch and I went to go tell Steve it was ready. I found him in the middle of our bed, curled in a fetal position, weeping so hard that the bed was shaking. I stared at this scene, trying to wrap my mind around what on earth could have brought on such extreme emotion in my mind-blind husband. Eventually, I gently broke into his pain and asked him, "Can you tell me what's happening?" So somehow, Steve had made the connection that he himself felt like the dog, a rogue mutt who needed to be sent back. He felt so broken. Wow, this was holy ground. I knew something sacred was opening up in his heart. I knew deep down that God was going to use this quite significantly. Steve asked me through his tears, "Will you help me save the dog?" Oh, friends, my heart melted. I was a puddle in his hand. For the first time, I felt like Steve and I had a project to work on together that he was 100% invested in. I threw my hat in the ring and committed. Let's save the dog. Now, as a side note, I will mention that the kids were not happy with the decision. And true to the neurodiverse confusion, I was marked as the culprit of this decision. Sigh, this was my life. So, immediately after that, God began to supernaturally open doors. The next week, I was dropping off kids at church for something, and the lady in front of me dropping off her kids waved to get my attention, and we got to talking. I updated her a bit about the dog. Turns out this woman was studying a dog training approach completely opposite to what the dog had experienced with this other domineering training approach. She said to me, "Libby, I had a dog exactly like what you're describing, and today he is a loving dog in our family." She then asked me if she could come over and work with the dog to practice everything she had learned. Wow, of course she could. My hope soared. So this angel friend began to come over. She taught me the correct method of how to approach and work with the dog consistently. I was so grateful for her many visits. It was a lot of work, but I poured myself into it. Again, I am trying to be careful with the details to protect those who are not here to tell their story, but let's just say that there was a lot of resistance, not from Steve. He was intimidated to enter in as a handler with the dog, but of course, he supported me with what I was attempting. But it always felt like I was going 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Those under our roof had been so imprinted to see me as the silly, crazy, depressed mom that I had 0 clout. But here's where it gets really hard. My heart was attaching to the dog big time. The dog obeyed me and loved me. I did everything for the dog because kids in their neurodiverse confusion were siding with those who were against me and would have nothing to do with using the new training methods with the dog. The dog's interaction with the others was not consistent with all of the hard work and methods I was implementing. And from time to time, that other aggressive trainer person would come over and be tough and rigid with the dog. One day, the aggravation was too much, and the dog bit this person, this trainer person that had the rough and rigid methods. The circumstances had my hands tied in all of this. It was really emotionally grueling for me. The dog would snarl and bark at anyone except me. Steve and I talked, and we knew I had to rehome him. Things were just a mess. I began calling all around. The shelter would not take back a dog who had bitten. I eventually found a farmer who had land for a dog to run, and I rejoiced that I may have found someone. But in the end, the farmer's wife talked sense into him, reminding him of his age. He was a retired farmer. I had come to an end. I knew we would have to have the dog euthanized. I was beyond devastated. Every night up until the appointment to euthanize him, I would take the dog out into the backyard under the moonlit sky and lay with him and cry. The dog loved me and would snuggle up to me. It's hard to talk about even now. But the dog's aggressiveness towards the others continued, and I had no choice with the way things were. The day came that Steve and I took this healthy, handsome young dog into the vet, and I held him as he took his last breath. I knew deep down that this event was a marker in my life. The immense grief was representative of the grief I carried in my heart for 32 years. And the amazing thing is that this journey with Steve wanting to help me rescue the dog served as what I call an Aspie bomb, which woke Steve out of his mind blindness. Steve was really torn up as well. This was everything he didn't want to happen. In the end, we couldn't save the dog, who in Steve's mind, remember, represented himself. The dog's death was way more than just a sad ending to an attempt to rehome a rescue dog. God was up to something, using all of this. And I know God didn't cause it, but he repurposed it. So we wanted to bury the dog at home. So after the dog had passed, the vet gave us a blanket to wrap him in, and we carried his body through the vet waiting room with onlookers and my red, swollen face wet with tears. It's a traumatic scene. I wished the vet had a back door for us to go out. At home, Steve dug a hole in the garden and we had a service and buried him. There is a reason I am sharing such a grievous story. In your neurodiverse marriage, you've had some grief, and we so often do not know what to do with grief. Usually, we stuff it. Sometimes we are afraid that if we open the pain, we'll start crying and never stop. By the way, that is not true. You will stop crying eventually. A good cry is exhausting, but it is also cleansing. We need a framework to handle our grief. I think God was teaching me how to grieve and let go of my pain through the story of the dog. What happened next was that process. God showed me how to grieve. I began to go for long walks with earbuds in, and God dropped a song into my spirit to play. It's a song I honestly had never paid much attention to. That's how I know this was from God. I played this song over and over as I took long walks. I mean, for days, bawling my eyes out. The song was Whitney Houston singing, "I Will Always Love You." God gave me permission to let the words be as if our deceased dog was singing it to me from heaven. Listen to these lyrics. If I should stay, I would only be in your way. So I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way, and I will always love you. Bittersweet memories. That is all I'm taking with me, so goodbye. Please don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need, and I will always love you. I hope life treats you kind, and I hope you have all you've dreamed of. And I wish you joy and happiness, but above all, I wish you love. Friends, I filled a lot of bottles with tears. Jesus cried with me, sometimes in the backyard, under the moonlit night sky, where I used to lay with the dog. It felt like I was releasing the grief of everything lost and stolen. 32 years of being misunderstood, alone, and unbelieved. What I didn't know was that God was relieving this grief so that my heart could make a way for what was coming. I was about to learn about Asperger's at this time and tell Steve that I believed this was his situation. None of that would be easy, but God was preparing me. There was a lot coming just around the corner. God gave me an analogy that I was like a pregnant mother coyote looking for a safe den to give birth. I knew he had provided a den, and I gave birth to all of my pain. Grief needs to be handled carefully. Grief can break, crush you, or it can break you open. I think my grief was breaking me open to the more of God. I was sensing the invitation from God to step inside of him and be enveloped in his love and just grieve. Jesus knows about grieving. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus knew exactly what was about to happen when he was sweating drops of blood, and he asked his disciples to stay awake and pray with him. Can you imagine how that felt for Jesus when he realized that, nope, they couldn't stay awake? I'm glad that God never slumbers. He is always there for us. Before I start our activation today, I want to mention a quote I recently heard. Suffering reveals your view of God. Friend, how are you doing with how you view God? I heard a series recently where various people were interviewed, and they all had to finish the following sentence. How do people live without... And then they had to fill in the blank. Now, if I were to fill in the blank, I would say, I don't know how people live without a baseline foundation of God is good all the time. What I mean is I need to know that no matter what, God is not the problem. He's good. Always. There's no evil in him. There's no wrong motive in him. He is love. He is the God who gives choice, and he preserved choice at all cost. And choice is what got mankind all wonky. But having choice is so beautiful and so risky. What a risky God we have. His love took a risk with choice for us. So today, I want to do an activation with you to invite you to step inside of Jesus as if he is like a ginormous down comforter and you are enveloped inside of him. And it is a safe place to grieve. I am well aware that this might be a really hard thought for some of you, and I bless you if you are one who needs a bit more time. It's okay. But if you sense this is your time to let some grieving begin, let's develop a framework. During our activation, you will hear the soft cooing cry of an infant. This symbolizes the fresh, organic release that babies can do. Just be held by God and let your grief out. Let's pray first. Jesus, in your mighty name, we come to you as daughters who need to feel safe as we consider grieving with you. Please bring your shalom peace to every listener and help us to use our divine imaginations to see what you are up to. Enlighten the eyes of our hearts. In your mighty name, amen. For our activation, you'll want to be in a quiet space where you can close your eyes, and I'm going to create a scene for you. If you're driving or busy, just come back to this when you can fully give yourself to this. Jesus is standing before you. He's wearing a white robe, and his smile is warm and inviting. His eyes are amazing, loving, and safe. You are drawn to look deep into them, you realize he can see deep into you. Intimacy is into me, see intimacy. You know that he is inviting you deeper. He asks you if you would like to step into him. You indicate yes. Come to me, weary one, he says. I will give you rest. You move towards him, and you are suddenly aware that you have stepped inside of him. You know that in this place, you are completely safe. It feels like he is both mom and dad at their absolute best. There is no dysfunction in how Jesus mothers and fathers you. Whatever you need right now, he is that for you. It's like this tumor of pain deep inside you now wants to come out, like a cat getting rid of a hairball. Your grief can begin. Do you hear the infant crying? This is your grief releasing. You see a beautiful, ornate bottle with your name inscribed on it. Jesus watches your tears begin to fall, and he catches every one of them and puts them in the bottle. Later, he will use your tears to water the path before you, where hope will spring up and new opportunities will grow. You tell Jesus all of your pain. He is patient. He has a lot of time because he lives in eternity. You are not rushed. You can enter this place over and over if need be. Each memory represents a scattered piece of your heart. Jesus begins bringing healing to your painful memories, gathering the scattering of your heart, putting them where they were meant to be, like a jigsaw puzzle. Jesus speaks to you the words of Isaiah 61:1. I am sent to bind up the brokenhearted. Jesus takes out some gauze that is softly colored with all of the rainbow colors, symbolizing his promises fulfilled. He begins to lovingly bind up your heart pieces. Once he is done, those parts are whole, attached back to your heart as they were meant to be, and the binding cloth is no longer necessary and no longer there. His presence has healed your heart. Jesus reminds you that you can come back again and again. Remember, he lives outside of time in eternity. He is not rushed, and he loves you so deeply, and you are the joy set before him. You are why he went to the cross. Your healing is what he came to do. Friends, if you want to deep dive into this more, I would be honored to walk alongside you and help you curate your grief. Check out CassandraUncaged.com and let's talk. See you next week, and remember, hope is on the way. Hey friends, until next time, have a great week, and check out CassandraUncaged.com to find community, resources, and a free consultation to see how I may be able to help you. Here's Steve.
We're praying for you and trusting that our breakthrough will make a way for your breakthrough. Please share this podcast, subscribe, and leave Libby a review. Join Cassandra Uncaged and become a member of the army that will change the face of neurodiversity.